We'll do introductions, sure, I guess, sure, why not?
Dale Baylog, board member.
Linda Hayes, COA Director.
Gordon Price, COA Chairman.
Audrey Reedy, member.
Lucille Sorrentino, member.
Pat Conway, member.
Debbie Young, Secretary.
Beth McCabe, member.
Thank you. Why don't we take a minute to review last month's minutes and make changes, if there are any changes to be made.
Okay, so there are packets. I did email them, but if you couldn't print, there are packets which include the minutes as well. Getting pretty good, Deb.
Yeah,
Thank you.
They really are wonderful.
Thank you.
How did the garden cup go, the workshop? Big success?
That's next week, isn't it?
I think it is next
We
week.
had one in October, and then we have one next week on
Is it a sellout?
Tuesday. We're still looking for people. We could accommodate some more. Anyone's interested?
What is the day of it? Tuesday,
The
I think.
16th, Tuesday the 16th at 10:30.
2:30?
10:30.
anyone have any corrections for the minutes, or have a motion to accept the meeting?
Motion to accept.
The second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yes. So we're going to give Linda the floor here for 30 seconds. No.
It always comes around so
As
fast.
long as she needs it.
I have one question.
Oh, absolutely, shoot.
How is the fuel assistance program going? Because
Well, it begins in earnest fairly quickly with the first chill.
but there's going to be enough.
Well, we simply facilitate the application process for people to the state or to Social Community Action Council specifically. Then we have nothing more to do with it. Now, if people come to us either because they weren't eligible, they still need assistance, then we may talk with them about what other resources there may be, either in the community or through us, which is limited, but that's how that works. And certainly both Jenny, primarily Jenny, but even Laura, will do the field assistance applications because there's that much of a need sometimes to have someone assist.
I happened to run to JD when I was leaving one of the grocery stores, and we got talking, and he happened to mention to me, he happened to mention to me that he was doing a fundraiser for the Rotary.
Yes.
And he said that the Rotary does, I believe they have some kind of a fund
They do.
for helping veterans.
Actually, possibly, maybe under new business, maybe Lucille could bring that up and talk about it, because
Oh,
she's on the
okay,
Rotary
great.
too. He did make that request.
Yeah.
Actually, too, before you start your report, I mentioned to Jenny today at the center, it might be a good idea to have Jenny come and speak to us as
It would.
well, and for the viewing audience. And maybe she could give
Good idea.
the intricacies of the field assistance program. She does so much.
That dawned on me on the ride over, and she would enjoy that. And everyone would enjoy her, so I will.
Yeah, that
I
would be
will.
good.
In fact, I mean, more than periodically, we did have Laura Menier join us back in possibly April, but of course now the board has almost completely turned over, so it would be helpful to have her, so she is the social services manager, but also outreach for the Council on Aging, and then Jenny is part-time outreach in-house, and just has certain responsibilities that are key to her position. So yes, that would be helpful. And I would like, and you got to hear from Q, so that was helpful. So the staff should come in periodically and give you little updates, even though I have their reports, which I will. So just for general updates from me for the Council on Aging for the month of November, thereabouts, I just turned in, or a week ago, turned in a level-funded budget to the town administrator. She she's gone over it with me and approved or made some minor changes, and then I go before the Board of Selectmen on February 17th for them to ask some questions and go over some things with me, including my goals. And then it goes to the Fiscal Advisory Committee as well, also in the month of February. Primarily salary increases, of course, that happen annually. Operation and maintenance of the building. Supplies for operating the building and operating the COA. Some professional development. One approved equipment purchase for streamlining our email and remote applications, because even though we're off-site, Town Hall still runs the servers, so we could get a little more efficient. And transportation, which, as you know, is reimbursed primarily by GATRA. So that's what's in my budget. My FY16 goals, I actually included on the second page of your packet, or third page, I guess. Sorry. And I revised the mission statement slightly, so if you just wanted to read that over. The mission of the Scituate Council on Aging is to identify the unique needs and interests of our senior citizens, which was there. And then I think I changed the second part, and implement programs that will enhance the quality of life, independence, and physical and emotional well-being of a growing aging community. I simplified it a little bit.
I think it's very good.
I like that.
So then you could just look at the 4 goals I submitted. She requests 3 to 5. We are reviewed based on our completion of our goals. So the first one, to increase partnerships with community groups and organizations. Certainly, we have started to make some inroads with that, especially through Laura's position. But I'd like to continue that and work with, there's so many, and they all do good works. So, seems like connecting the Council on Aging and the seniors with those organizations would be helpful. To increase community awareness of the Scituate Council on Aging services and programs, so naturally expanding our external communications use of SCTV, which we have talked about anyway, and he has certainly been very open and willing, but we'd like to work on a public relations video that would appear regularly through the cable, and then use it in other ways, filming some of our events and activities. Yes?
Have you thought about putting your calendar on?
So the website is another,
Okay.
and we could put the calendar on the cable as well.
It's a good idea.
I guess maybe not.
Yeah.
Where do we put it? We put it on our website, so really growing that a bit, that's through the town. So the Council on Aging is a department under the town website, of course, and we have the ability to edit that ourselves and add things there. So our calendar is there, but that would be a good idea to add. We are able to put stills, slides, for instance, like a flyer, on cable through PowerPoint, but we could do that with the calendar as well. So I'd also like to work with my staff at the Council on Aging and expand and improve our internal and external communications for all of our roles. Do some professional development or some team building for the Council on Aging staff. And then to assimilate the results of the needs assessment report and begin to incorporate as able whatever comes out in that report, which I'll talk about too. So I actually included the needs assessment update on the agenda later. So I guess I could just go through the rest of what we've been doing. I will mention I had applied for a grant through the Mass Council on Aging. I should actually hear next week, but I'm confident, so I'm mentioning it early. It's Christmas after all. They acquired, so to speak, this program that, in fact, I was involved in both developing the program and running the pilot back in Duxbury. It's called the Aging Mastery Program. AMP is the acronym. When we did it for 8 weeks and then another 8 weeks where we gathered close to 40 individuals who signed up to hear from different speakers over the course of 8 weeks within certain designated topics. Topics included physical activity, healthy eating, medication management, planning for the future, preventive services through Medicare, benefits fall prevention. Now, once we had done the pilot, they ran it another time after I had left and come here, and then Mass Council on Aging adopted it. Tufts Insurance has now subsidized it and is giving the money to run the program to those that apply.
You said 8 weeks. It's another group, the second 8 weeks.
No, actually, the way it works, it's sort of reinforcements, so now it runs for 12 weeks. They've changed some of the topics, but then you can add your own topics at the end. And generally, they get points. It was devised using both the Girl Scouts, sort of, and the old A&P green stamps concept, that as you do certain things and accomplish certain things, then you get rewarded with points, and at the end, those points, after they accumulate, can be used to acquire prizes. So I think gift cards were viewed to be the most welcome prizes at the end, so I think they've almost honed it down to just maybe offering those sorts of things instead of a whole catalog of ideas. But, so I believe we will. I asked to run it in the fall of FY15, so they were doing one in the winter, spring, but because we're losing use of the community building soon to the library, which is fine. But I just don't know what building space we will have and what we will be able to do, so I just decided to ask for the fall for that. So I'm looking forward to it. That will be fun, and people will enjoy that. So that was something new. The other idea I thought I should mention is just that emergency preparedness, of course, as we enter the winter season or are in it. Our role primarily, and Laura may have a slightly larger role, in fact, but our role is more pre-storm. We make phone contact with at-risk seniors that we have in our database, that we know of, that we've made previous contact with, that we've tried to collect, so that we do have the names that we need and can even supply them to the fire department or the police department should they need them. And we give them tips and some recommendations and ideas for how to stay safe, and also then we find out from them whether they might have some transport issues and whether we should recommend to the fire or police that this is an address that they should be aware of if power is lost or if there are safety concerns. So that's our role. The health department, the fire department, and the police department, along with the town administrator, of course, are the key pieces. And then they call us in. As a director, I am expected to make it into the shelter when I can, if I can. So I'm happy to know that one of the fire, Al Elliott, one of the fire personnel, deputy chief, I think now, but he lives in Duxbury, so I'm figuring if I can get my DPW guys in Duxbury to pick me up, bring me to the border, and he can take me the rest of the way. So,
Sounds like a plan.
and 3A being a state road where, it should be plowed. Okay, so that's what I thought you might be interested in knowing as far
Are
as...
some of these people in private homes as well as maybe like
Yes.
Central Park or Wheeler Park, or are they?
It's more the private homes,
Yeah, right.
because the housing authority accommodations, they actually have generators in their common rooms, and generally speaking, can reach out to the people that are residents there.
Okay.
So no, not necessarily. So our programs and activities, a little lighter, I think, the last month. Certainly the holidays have an impact, as well as the weather. So numbers are a little bit smaller. But the art class, where we added a second one, was booming. Now she takes a month or 2 months off, which she deserves.
Is that Joanne?
That is Joanne Pepandrea, yes. So she works hard, and she's had really a lot of response to her classes. It's great. Not to mention that they decorate the senior center with the paintings, so they look
Oh, yeah, they're wonderful.
good in there. Pickleball, I just mentioned, just because it's really become a thing.
I bet.
So it's really one of our, we have badminton on Wednesday nights, which is generally run by Tom Edwards, and he's got a legion of people who help him out for that on Wednesday nights at 6 at Jenkins. And he has helped us learn how to set up the nets and use the building at Jenkins. We were able to move it from 6 p.m. to 5, which is a little bit more helpful.
Oh, good.
That they allowed us to get in a little bit early. It's hard enough to go out at night, but that does help. So it runs from 5 to 6:30 now, which is plenty of time for a few games of doubles and pickleball. Still instruction. We have one young man who comes in and helps when he can.
Yes.
And he's been great. Enjoys playing, too.
And that's on Wednesday, correct?
That is on Monday night.
Monday.
Monday night at 5. and we hope it continues through the winter. And then I am hoping, certainly come the spring and good weather, that we could find an outdoor court that we could use as well, which I think would increase some of the participation.
Well, there are enough courts around Scituate. Hopefully. you can
And some
find
would
it.
say not enough courts around Scituate, but yes, there should be. We hope we can find one. Community education, we just finished the second 6-week course by Bob Jackman. So he did one 6-week course from October to November, and then another from November to December on biographies. He's up again come January for another 6-week class. He also facilitated 3 field trips around Scituate into the Hull Life Saving Museum as well, which is in here. So we had 10 people go with him there, and 24 take part, which was our maximum. That's where we call those classes. We had a great men's breakfast in November with Paul Cookstis, the wood carver in Scituate. He was wonderful. He gave a nice talk explaining sort of his evolution to becoming a wood carver, and also did a demonstration. It was really nice. The guys liked it. Cafe Talks, we had one in November for fall prevention, a second one with John Galuzzo from the Natural Science Center now on the life of the lifesaver Joshua James. Everyone loved him, and he is targeted, hopefully, to do a lifelong learning class as well, which would be a multiple-week session on a subject we haven't chosen yet. And the school superintendent and some school committee members also came in to give us an update on that project before it goes to vote. It was before town meeting, in fact. So the history field trip series, they went to Peggotty Beach, the Scituate Maritime Museum, and the Hull Life Saving Museum. The fire department did come in and do a SAFE program on one of the last Fridays we had, and they will go to the housing authorities as well and do it separately there. That's just some reinforcement and reminders on not only how to be safe and what they can do if they're called to help them out, change batteries in fire alarms and do an inspection if they need it, but also what they expect when something happens, how they do expect people to leave their residences if they're asked, and how to proceed, like a fire drill. So that's great, and they're always available to us if we need them for information, so we're grateful for that. This Saturday is the Scituate Police Annual Luncheon that they hold at the Congregational Church. There's room still. We've submitted the names that we had for people that signed up. I think we had about 60 or 70 sign up with us, so if anyone is still interested. And then on the 19th is our holiday celebration with some entertainment that I haven't actually seen, so it's a little interactive. It's a Hollywood quiz show. He's called me for years, and I finally said, you know what, he sounds like fun, so we will see. But we have, I think, sort of our maximum at this point at 50. I would take some more, and we will serve sort of some fun food, hors d'oeuvres or heavier, and some refreshments as well. So
What time is that?
starts at 1 to 2:30 on a Friday afternoon next week, the 19th. So also, if we take a look at Laura's report, Manager of Social Services, I thought I might mention, I do attend this monthly meeting that she facilitates with what is now referred to as the Scituate Hoarding Response Team, as opposed to the Hoarding Task Force. So Scituate Hoarding Response Team is the new label. So we finalized a mission and some goals and a plan for going public so that the community knows it exists if they have a need to discuss anything or are interested in learning. So I think the first goal really of the group is community education. So we've talked about showing a film that highlights some of the issues and having a speaker come in that the community would be invited to hear. The team includes fire, SANS, COA, a representative from Social Elder Services, someone from the building department, and the health department, naturally, and the police. So everyone and anyone could get a call or could be the first to realize that there's a situation, and oftentimes I think the call it could even come from a neighbor, and where does it go? They may just call whomever they think they should call. So there needs to be a plan and a process for alerting all of the parties that need to know about it. So that's where the team comes in. Community Christmas, I think the baskets have gone out. In fact, I know they have. And our outreach department was asked for their input, so they did put together a list and contribute names to the group that, I guess they gave them over 80 seniors who would receive the gifts. I had a call just randomly from someone who had received two, a big basket and a large bag, and she was overwhelmed and just said she couldn't believe how wonderful it was. So it was very nice. That was nice to hear. It certainly is nice to be remembered. Jenny's report is next, so you just simply see her numbers when it comes to what she's fielding for requests for assistance, whether it's Medicare applications or questions, fuel assistance applications, SNAP, if someone needs services in the home through social or elder services, or maybe assistance with a housing application. So she does all of that, as well as,
How does Mass Health, how does that work?
how does what
I'm
her?
just looking under the
Mass
services
Health.
provided. How do they,
She's helping them submit an application.
okay, that's what I was.
There's a lot of paperwork documentation that might need to go with it, and sometimes it's,
I worked for Mass Health for 12 years, and I always get a kick out of people who, negative people who criticize how easy it is to take advantage of state benefits. And it's not easy. It's not. And people literally have to jump through hoops to prove that they need Mass Health. So anyone, so I know from being at the center with Jenny, it's continually, they're bringing back documents, and that's just, you know, for people who criticize the system, it's not easy to get a benefit from
Sure.
the state.
well,
But
for,
something like today's front page article in the
oh,
Globe,
what was it?
What was it?
the abuse of Medicare.
Oh,
Medicaid.
okay.
That's a
Well, yeah.
article about how many people, millions of dollars we spend.
Mhm.
When I've heard several times how difficult it is usually, so you wonder how they got through it.
Well, there's a lot of documentation requested for the fuel assistance applications, too. It's a long list. So she often, when we get the call or someone comes in, she really just has to say, you need to get these things together, because without them, there's nothing we can do to assist. So it does take some work beforehand. I didn't mention, of course, that we had Shine, 15 visits with Shine, so he's indispensable.
I had a woman in my office today who had been working with, what's the gentleman's name?
Norm.
Norm. And her husband recently passed away, and
Oh, yeah.
she really,
Right.
and I know that he did everything
Oh, my
in the
goodness.
house, so she really was very grateful. for
He's
that
virtually
assistance.
famous, and there was actually an article in the Patriot Ledger on him, picture and everything, because he really,
Uh-huh.
he is in Weymouth at their senior center, and then comes to us. And as I've said, it's really only 3, and I think he might have squeezed in a 4th for the busy month that we just had, but
And he does this as a volunteer, correct?
he is a volunteer,
Yeah.
yes.
He's not getting subsidized.
Big commitment.
Yeah. I don't know. Chris.
They are all volunteers to Shine, and it is a big commitment. It's, you really have to, like,
If I can ask a question, this Scituate coordinator response team, when did that originate?
within the last 6 months, spearheaded really by Laura Minier, who's the social services manager working with the Council on Aging. She has, and the health department as well. So they are the ones that really had encountered some issues and just wanted to have a better plan in place for how to proceed when they are told about things.
If someone has concern and they want to call someone, should they start with the health department?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I'd like to have her come sometime to the board and
The health,
hear a little bit about, you know, how they're developing this response team.
absolutely.
Yes.
It would be helpful to, I know, to me, the name sounds rather strange, Scituate Hoarding Response Team.
Well, task force, I guess, maybe just felt a little ubiquitous today, so they just wanted something
Yeah.
that more directly related to what they were trying to do, and that is respond to a need.
Mhm.
So,
I think it's a national problem, that's for sure. I mean, through the years, I'm sure all caught stories on the national news of people even passing away because the firemen couldn't get into the house. But I think sometimes it's like an issue like, not in my town, you know?
Sure.
Wedding is someplace else,
Yeah.
not here in Scituate.
Yeah.
No, it's everywhere.
But it is, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And then there is Q's report, the transportation report. Vans are busy. Holidays bring the numbers down a little bit. Out-of-town medical appointments do continue to be busy. And I think as people find out that that service is available, they certainly do want to take advantage of it, so
Busy thing.
we are, as part of that goal I did mention in terms of exposure, external communication, certainly making people aware of some of the services that they might not be as aware of, including transportation and how it works, will go into the newspaper and on the cable.
Now, when it comes to maintenance on vehicles, out of whose budget do those costs come from?
We pay it initially, and then GATRA reimburses us for it. So we submit an invoice for the expenses for that month, and then they reimburse us for it. So we have a certain amount of dollars that we are budgeted through GATRA. Whether we actually spend that much money or not is a question until it comes, until it happens.
Is that mileage, 1,351, is that just for the month?
That is for the month for our vans. So that's local travel only.
It's a lot of miles.
It is a lot of miles. It's a lot of square miles to cover. Where we go isn't mostly downtown. It is to Shaw's and Cohasset.
I have a question. Beacon Hospice, how did we get involved with Beacon Hospice? Where are they located? Where is that?
Which report?
This is
Oh, Beacon Hospice. That is simply Jenny meeting with resources to see what they might be able to offer when she ends up having a client who could use certain services. So oftentimes we have got to facilitate the connection with.
But does that mean it's Boston,
No,
Beacon?
it does not mean it's Boston. I'm not remembering where they are. We do get, we get drop-ins and calls, not just on the South Shore, really everywhere. So a lot of the agencies have representatives that might be more local, or they hire the staff. Although Scituate, South Shore Elder Services has actually mentioned having a little trouble staffing Scituate because it's a difficult town to get to for some of the job applicants, nursing or non-medical that they're trying to hire. So they have mentioned that. If anybody knows of anyone in the home care field, I think they could get a job. But that is, we oftentimes get asked to meet with these just so that we are aware of what services they might be able to provide. And that one, I do believe they're more local than they sound. So that, for now, is my report, other than some new business
Yep.
coming up.
Okay, great.
Well, what about old
The
business?
needs assessment.
Well, we're not there yet.
Oh, I think
So I get to talk again later.
Joan, do you want to give us a little report on South Shore Elder Services, please?
Yes. You probably noticed in the paper that the governor had cut seniors. Healthcare, it's the first thing they cut is humanities, because that's one of the things that they can cut without getting in touch with anybody else.
They don't have enough advocates.
But
They
South
don't
Shore
know
Elder
if we can get it
Services is
back.
doing great. There is a waiting list, but it's just for clients who really aren't in dire need. So they're very happy with that. Sandra Lindsay, who is the director, is great. She's out there in the media. She's very active with Twitter from all over the country. Anything to do with the media that she can be at, she's at.
Good for her.
What is her name again?
She's in Boston lobbying, and they had officials from Washington DC and Holyoke, Mass, and she was the only director of South Shore Elder Services, that type of facility. She was there.
Her name's Sandra Lindsay. She's the executive
I
director.
don't think she sleeps either. So.
I don't think so either.
But they did have a walk-a-thon fundraiser at South Shore, and they came out with $14,000.
Wow, that's great.
At the meeting, they had sponsors, and they had made $3,000 there after expenses. And so this money is used for new equipment and like new things for computers, because the government doesn't pay for that type of thing. So that's what they use that type of money that they're fundraising.
We get a small grant through them for transportation as well.
Oh, okay.
And then they just mentioned that Quincy Hospital is probably going to close, but they will have urgent care. Yeah, in fact, one of the doctors is on our board. I think that's about it. They're doing good, and they're really out there, and if you want to find out what's going on, go into.
She is another one that we could invite to come speak sometime, because I do think it's alphabet soup. They are our Area Agency on Aging, AAA, and also an ASAP. They serve 10 communities, I think, on the South Shore.
I think it's 11.
11. And they have a lot of tendrils out there, so I think that might be helpful.
Yeah.
So I would add her to the list.
Then the St. Luke's dinner we're going to have is the Sunday after Christmas, which is the 28th, and they're going to have beef burgundy, salad, and chocolate cheesecake. And that's at 5 o'clock.
What's that date again, Joan?
Pardon me?
Date again, December?
28th. Which is always
it's
the
a
fourth
Sunday.
Sunday of the month.
How was your November dinner?
5 o'clock?
Very good. 5 o'clock. Very good. We get 60 to 80 people.
That's
In January, we're going to, and well, at the last November one, the Cub Scouts help with it, and the seniors, of course, love it when they have the little kids.
Absolutely, they do.
And they were great. And then the January one, we're going to have Girl Scouts.
Oh, wow.
That's good.
Now, are you going to talk about the trees?
I wish you would, because you did flyers, you did all of that. So
Okay.
tell us
Okay.
the charities we're working with.
We've been doing this for several years.
And this is the Rotary Club.
This is the Rotary Club.
We should make mention.
And they sell paper trees, they're different colors, and if you're a marketplace, you'll notice it. And a marketplace, the cashiers are in competition with each other, so we don't have to be there. And they raised over $1,000 last year.
Which marketplace? Where?
Village
Scituate.
Oh, Village Market.
Village Market.
Oh, at the supermarket?
And
was there today.
then we go to Shores.
We're at Shores
We're there doing the trees.
every weekend.
Every weekend, and then in Marshfield, they're at different places too. And the seniors are one of the people that we give a check to.
Yes.
On this fundraiser goes to, this fundraiser is just for locals. And so Marshfield people, they have it from Marshfield, and we do it in Scituate. We do the veterans, we do the seniors, we do the high schools, and we do the special ed. So,
They
and
gave
then we
us-
have some to sell at the senior center, so if you're in the senior center, I want to see you buying those trees and putting them up in the window.
Where are they? I was there today, I didn't see any.
Well, I gave them to Jill over a month ago,
I haven't
Okay.
seen
and I gave her one tree. I bought one tree, so she would stop putting them
Oh,
up.
just Sunday, Sundays, I'm sorry.
So that's been there.
We're just there.
Okay,
So we
well,
have to really push that.
that would be
right,
great
Sir
to
JD.
know.
But she said there were trees at the senior
John Miller, the president of the Rotary Club, did ask if there was anyone who might be interested in assisting with the selling of these, any of the group that we may have through the senior center. So if anyone is interested in helping out, whether at Shaw's or the Village Market
Well, the
locally,
village market, we don't have to worry about, because
they do it themselves.
themselves.
They do it
That's
themselves.
right.
So
Well,
Shaw's,
We're
okay.
there Saturdays and Sundays at Shores
Just on the weekend.
on the weekend.
And their whole
It's a
front
paper-
window
it's a
is
paper
filled
cutout- it's a
with
paper
trees.
cutout.
You can't see out the
Paper trees, so
window.
like the green ones for $1,
I saw
red ones
those
for
today.
$2.
And then you write your name on them?
And you write your name and put them up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Now I'm,
But now, yeah, I gave them to Jill a long time ago, and I gave her one tree, so I said, get other people to do it. So at the functions, we have to,
okay.
because we gave them a good check last year.
I want to mention that the high school kids are doing something also for us. They're helping us out with they're using their funds for special group that they want to donate to. So,
Well, you have the
right.
Young Rotarians.
And if I might just take a minute, I became a Rotarian based on these trees because I was, combined, make a donation, and then I was invited to a Rotary meeting, and so the trees were in December, and in January, the end of January, they invited me, and I went, and I sat there, and the monies that were donated, they had a representative from the senior center, they had someone from the food pantry, they had someone from the veterans. I mean, they got the money and they just gave it right out. I was very impressed with that. I thought, wow, no one did me. It's a beautiful thing.
No temptation to take 10%.
They went up with that check.
And she's so impressed, she's going to be our next president.
Oh, my God. I am impressed with the work they do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, new business.
Well, actually, I don't know if there is any
Old
old,
business.
is there any
Old
old?
business.
I'm
Yeah,
excited.
we have old business, I'm sorry.
I read about the needs assessment, 30%. She never thought we'd get 30%, right? It's exciting.
That was the goal.
Well, we did.
Oh,
We did, yes.
It's terrific.
I have a question. When will they talk about it?
Okay, well, that, I can jump to, I can jump to that. The needs assessment, so, yes, since there are questions. The survey's completed all in, and, sorry, I can talk about that now, is what I meant. The surveys and the data collection is complete. They held a focus group for us on Tuesday. That was really the last step that we needed for them to have some additional data where we wanted to make sure that stakeholders and representatives who deal with at-risk seniors would have them represented in the collection and the data, just because the surveys themselves probably weren't going to hit some of them. So we included the usual suspects: fire, police, veterans, housing authority, our outreach, and I think that might be it. So that was very helpful. Also animal control, SANS. And then they were conducting 5 peer council on aging interviews, phone interviews with other directors, just to compare some of the way they do things, services offered, programs, buildings, etc. So we had chosen 5. Marshfield and Hingham is local, Rockland, Sandwich, and Newburyport. Funny enough, a similar community who is building a new senior center, and so they thought that would be a good addition.
Repeat that one more time, Marshfield, Sandwich.
It's right
It's in
in.
your notes, it's in your notes.
So I did feel, so actually, okay, about the data, so yes, we did actually even get maybe a little over 30%. Primarily, they were returned from the 60 and over age groups, and many fewer were received from the 45 to 59. And we had hoped, I think, to get more, but just proportionately speaking, that was much greater at the other end, which I guess is to be expected. But they had told us, yes, 30%, you'd be lucky to get 30%, that's what we hope for, that's the goal. I really thought we would get more, just because I thought everybody knew about it, and I heard of a lot of people receiving and returning very promptly. But I guess that's about 600, a little more than 600 out of the 2,000 that we sent out. So, but that's useful to them, they can use that. So the report should be completed by them. December 21st is the target date, and it's Christmas, of course. So I guess
what date? I'm sorry.
December 21st.
December.
Which is a Sunday, which is weird.
And how we will be presented, I think that still needs to be talked about, and I think we could use ideas for where we maybe should go for some sort of public presentation, whether we should have it at the senior center, I'm sure. I'm just imagining that the selectmen will be interested in hearing about that. Whether we have an open forum type thing. It will go on the website. It'll be on the Council on Aging website as a link, so that the document itself will be available online. But any ideas anyone has as to how maybe we should
I'd like to have.
share the report?
Have someone come to the board meeting
Like,
in January.
we could have
to
someone.
discuss the report.
We could absolutely ask them to
Start
do
there.
that. That's great.
And then you reach the viewing audience as well as us.
Yes, that's right. It's a little disconcerting for me
Mhm.
that we'll wait till January. We have, I think we have to give it more education, preparation, or
Mhm.
whatever, more
Mhm.
enthusiasm,
Mhm.
more knowledge
Mhm.
when we present it.
Mhm.
Now, in January, the town meeting will have come and gone. If you saw tonight's Mariner,
Mhm.
anybody see it? There's a picture,
No.
a cartoon by Matt, of like a Santa Claus, and we want this, that, and the
right.
other. They didn't even
Oh.
mention a senior center.
No.
If you look at the cartoon, there's nothing about a senior center. There's an article from a gentleman that was on the advisory board that's very unhappy that he was not able, as a member of the advisory
Mhm.
board,
Mhm.
to give his dissenting opinion and why.
Mhm.
I was at
They
that meeting,
treated him
and
like-
I agree. I witnessed that, and I agree with
Yeah,
what
they
you're saying.
treated him like a resident, people booed, they took his time away.
Well, I-
Sit down.
well, I don't
You know,
remember
the whole
anyone
thing was
booing.
poorly done.
That's too bad. I did feel in the previous special town meeting that, in fact, the Council on Aging was mentioned several times as being something to be considered during all of the discussion as things were coming up. So,
So I just wondered if we could make the production
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
this information
Mhm.
sooner. Yeah, at one time, I do recall we had the high school auditorium, do you remember that?
Yeah, that was April 1 a few years ago.
Well,
when the whole-
I mean, realistically, if the report's not going to be
You won't even
completed
be
till
back
until
until the
holidays.
December 21st,
Yeah.
and you've got Christmas to deal with, January 1st to deal with.
Yeah.
But I think realistically, because our next
Have to
meeting
be
would be January what?
well, I'm hoping to
I don't know,
make
I
a
thought you
request to
had it on the
change that by
agenda, yeah.
January.
But I-
It's in January.
You know, I think that would be suitable for our purposes, but I think we need to,
Mhm.
you know, we need to start somewhere, and I think starting with us understanding very clearly what the report says, what the
Mhm.
conclusions are, then we develop, I think, a game plan
Yes.
to bring that to the public. You know, Linda had
I
emailed
agree.
me earlier in the week asking me, you know, what I thought, you know, we could have for efforts coming up, and I think this is going to be the major effort, is to get the
Mhm.
word out
Mhm.
and to get the message out that the
Mhm.
senior center needs are,
Yep.
not only the center needs, but the senior needs are
Right.
paramount. You know, We've got a huge senior population in this town that's growing every day.
Uh-huh.
And what did they say? Did someone say at some point that 60% of the voters in this town
Mhm.
either are or are soon to be
Mhm.
over
Over
60
60.
years old?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, 50,
40%.
40%, okay. So that's a big constituency. So, yeah,
It is a
you're
lot.
right.
It's more than the children.
There's a lot to be
I think
done.
they're
Yeah.
more seniors.
It is.
My
Yeah.
feeling is this. We have very little support, other than people agree for 20 years. And I've been around, and every selectman has said to me, I totally agree with you, I'm right behind you, but not this year, okay? That's been 10 or 20 years.
Sure.
Do you think after the town votes millions, and it will be millions, for all of our new projects, you don't think that a senior center will be ho-hum? Are you kidding? We're gonna ask you for more money? I think.
We're so close to the finish line. It's just a little more patience, I think, because once, not this report, but once that leg is completed, the current Gates School, the safety complex, they will be able to turn their attention then to what comes next as a result of that.
But the attention they're turning is not what the majority of seniors want. You see, the attention that they're gonna get, they're gonna
Understood.
get put you
Mhm.
with all the members of the town
I
hall,
know.
everybody,
Mhm.
and then the seniors in the gates, which we know is not going to be
Well,
feasible.
it's all the more reason why, if that's not the most realistic plan, that we have to
Mhm.
develop a game plan to know how we can counteract that, and take the fight that way. And, you know, I think, you know, I've been talking with a few people from around town about, and I've been very involved with the Scituate Library fundraising. And, I think it was a great gesture on their part, both financially, but also in terms of just how people viewed the Scituate Library project, because there were some private funds that were poured into that. And it may be that
Yes.
I'm a senior now myself, so it may be that the seniors might have to come up with a plan where they can go to the town and say, look, in good faith, we think we can raise $500,000.
I think that's the important.
In good faith, and the rest of it is going to be, on the...
I think
Um,
that's the only
so-
way we're ever going to have any standing at all. Nobody's listened for 20 years. Nothing's changed. We are going to have to actively come up with some money,
Yeah.
some funding. It's just reasonable that we say if we can make X amount, perhaps we may. But
I think opportunity for discussion is coming.
Information ought to be out there.
It's time.
But I
It's
think we
coming.
have to take it step by step, because I've been on the board with you for a short time in relation to how many years you've been, but still now we're at a point where I think we have to still take it step by step. I mean, I've sat at many board meetings with you, I don't think anybody else was at where this issue was a running topic month after month. But now, as Linda said, we're at a finish line now that's going to give us some kind of base to move on again. I mean, Audrey, you've been moving all these years on this issue, but now is now, and I agree with Dr. Price and Linda, that now we have what we wanted, a substantial survey. We're going to have it in black and white, and we'll start with the board and go forth from there. I mean,
If anyone didn't see this,
we can't go back 20 years.
I brought a
and
copy.
We're
A
here
couple
now.
copies.
And we have to work with what we have now and approach things as they are now.
Well,
I just want to go on record that I think it's time, and we have got to come up with some funding, and we've got to do a better job of educating people. We've got to be able to get ourselves out there, not the same faces, people who sit with the same faces, new people,
well,
with the information that we're going to have by this. It is a step.
The pub-
Could I make a comment?
Yes.
We have the needs assessment that's getting completed, and a representative will come and talk to us,
Yes.
hopefully on January, the board. That's a starting point. Couple of things I'd like to mention. First of all, older people coming out to meetings in the winter is not the best timing, one. Secondly, many of the older people, and many that might be going a step further to support a senior center, are in Florida. So the timing, even the timing of this election coming up in January, and the hearing or the town meeting that happened in December, I'm going to use a strong word, is shameful. Because seniors, many of them leave in October, and they're not even back until April or May. Something important in the town has happened with a segment of our population gone. Now, good planning on some people's part, I would have to say.
Well, there is the vote, a lot of people do vote.
absentee.
Absentee
They vote
voting.
absentee, but they
Right.
didn't attend the meeting in December.
Right, right.
So let us not fall into that pattern. Let us get prepared by hearing the results of the survey. But I like what you've said. We need to get ourselves out there. Let's take our time to do it. We have some representatives here that are very much for that and have been working very hard towards it. So we can all put our heads together and come up with a plan, but also be doing it at a time in which the majority of the population of Scituate is around to take advantage of it.
Well, that's
I think that's a good
my
idea.
great point.
It is.
I think we'll have a lot more pieces of the puzzle that will give a stronger argument now than maybe when I was on the board. I don't know when it was 15 years ago. We thought we had a center here by Central School. But it was just kind of us going out saying we need a center. Now we've got a survey, we've got some valid information. Joanne has done a lot of
And
work.
we have the
She was
group
telling me that
behind it.
the Marshfield Senior Center had 1,000 Scituate
People
visits.
going down there, yeah.
So, people will say, well, the senior center only services a small portion of people right now. Well, of course it does. It can only, physically only service
That's why
a
they
Yeah.
small portion of
Yeah,
people.
because of the size of the
If you have
building.
a center that is suitable for the needs, which hopefully the survey will show us, people will come. So we're not going to build a center that's not going to be used. It's going to be
It will be
very
used.
highly used, and people will be encouraged to want to come to the center.
Build it and they will come.
Yeah.
That's right. Also, Marshfield serves the meal there. 25 to 35 people they're serving. I volunteered there, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago before I came to Scituate. And they're there from 10, seniors are there from 10 o'clock in the morning, doing Tai Chi, various activities, staying there for lunch, line dancing afterwards, or a movie afterwards.
Well, of course.
It's fantastic.
That would be our goal. We
Yeah.
would like to have our own
But we don't have it,
congregate
so that's
lunches.
why there's all of these people down in Marshfield right now.
But to backtrack a little bit about in one of your statements, I think it's very, very important as we move forward, and I've been saying this to myself and anybody who would listen, that we work together with the Friends group.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
mean,
That's the point of the Friends.
right.
Yes,
But
exactly.
I think now at this juncture, after the needs assessment study is done, I really think that we have a common goal. How we get there and the various personalities involved, I think it's time to incorporate everybody's energies and everybody's efforts. And I'm familiar with some of the work the Friends has done. I'm familiar with, from being on the board, how this issue has been a crucial one for the board. And now we just need to move forward together. And that's how I feel about it.
A united front.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And there's tons of energy and creativity in the group and the Friends, under the leadership of Joanne. There's tons of creativity and energy sitting at this table, at this very table. And so, I think it's about time that we all work together. And if this,
So, and I will ask the UMass team if they can
Yeah.
come in January, and
That'd be great.
if we'll work on a date there. I did have a request that we perhaps move our meeting to the third Thursday, if we could, instead of the second Thursday in January.
So the
What's
first
the date?
Thursday is January 1st. So it'll be
First.
the 1st, the 8th, and 15th.
You wanted the 15th?
I would. And we could meet at the senior center.
Oh, okay.
Well, that would be good.
I talked with Linda about this, and since I got my brand new iPad about 6 weeks ago, you can't keep me off that thing now. Right, Debbie?
I guess so. It's just fabulous.
Are we going to push the time up, or are we going to aim for 12 or 6?
Same time.
Yeah, 5:45.
So I had a discussion with Linda today at the senior center about just possibly having it at the senior center. We used to have it at the senior center all the time.
Yeah.
And then the Maritime Center and so on and so forth.
The reason we can't have it at the senior center is because there is an art class, and I didn't want to disrupt that. It's a Thursday evening art class, which has a fair participation. But I will talk to her about possibly seeing if
No, so we may have it at
Possible-
Senior
Well,
Center?
if she could switch to another night.
she's not
That would
meeting
free
in,
up the Thursdays.
she's not meeting in January, so it's free.
Oh.
And then she may take other time
Stay
off.
on Thursday.
She's also willing to meet 3 weeks and not a 4th, so she's actually very flexible right now. So it could be that we end up able to meet there.
Okay.
But we're still working on that. I had also just thought as a suggestion that the January meeting, or the February meeting, if we end up with a presentation in January, we could discuss the year and setting up or brainstorming on some ideas for activities that the board could be involved in and start to work towards, so.
So that brings me to old business.
Okay.
I just wanted to know what the status was. I think it was the first month you came on board as chairman, that you gave us surveys to fill out about being on subcommittees. Are we going to take that idea any further?
So that would be a working,
Yeah, I mean, because it kind of
A working meeting.
died. So, I mean, maybe this would be a good time to, we did fill out the sheets.
We did.
Maybe you.
I didn't, I
We
didn't either, no.
Right, so we were the board was changing, and so
Yeah.
we will get back to that, and in fact, January or February would be the month to do that.
Yeah, I think.
I'll make a note.
Yeah, I think, particularly after we hear what the
Committee.
needs assessment is, that might,
Yeah.
spur some
Exactly.
reason for having some particular subcommittees and people who have particular interest in it that they could sign up for. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should definitely pursue that.
I have two more things on old business. Are
Oh.
we supposed to be doing something else now?
No?
No, go ahead.
The other one is the computer teacher. Were you able to get anything on
Not as
that?
yet, no.
Not as if you don't have about 9 million other things to do. I think that's one good thing about volunteering, as you do, Pat, at the senior center. You get to see just how much the
Yeah.
staff does. And, and they're in the middle of something and how many interruptions they can have and not get something completed, et cetera. And it really gives you a good sense of, what's going on. And the third thing was, is there any possibility we can have curtains in the senior center?
You mean on the windows?
Yeah.
Oh.
Why? I brought this up. Why? It looks awful. There
Well, one
were
of the
I didn't
curtains.
say why.
I'm back to money. Where's the money going to come from?
That would be,
Well, I had an idea, I brought this up at a
We didn't
previous
have
meeting.
windows. I mean,
Perhaps we could get some volunteers we have lots of crafty women, maybe just buy the material, sew the curtains. I don't know, but I mean,
At this juncture, it would be a volunteer effort.
That would like to come up and make curtains at the senior center.
one of the reasons,
You're talking
There's
about
a lot of
the
windows there.
windows that are on Brook
Right there.
Street side? Those windows?
at least that side. I mean, it just looks awful. We used to have curtains and they were really dirty and old, really. You couldn't tell they were dirty and old.
didn't actually bother me, but also I've been waiting to hear about some painting. I wanted to have it painted in the interior, painted. I had applied for the program that the sheriff's department does to have it painted,
yeah.
and they just haven't had,
Well,
they haven't had enough eligible inmates.
But they will after Christmas.
Are you talking about curtains that are gonna cover the window?
We don't
I don't
cover
know.
the windows.
We used to
There's
have
a slide in there.
Yeah, we used to have like cafe type curtains. And, whatever happens, we're gonna be there for a while. And they were taken down and determined that if they were cleaned, they would disintegrate.
Yeah.
So, and none were ever put back up.
One thing you have to remember, and I don't mean to interrupt, you have to be plain retarded.
Right.
That's the public building.
Also, we don't want anything too heavy, so we lose our light. I'm going to inspect tomorrow when I
It's
go
a
down to
code.
volunteer. I'm going to inspect the windows.
Oh, yeah, well,
Well, winter's always a great time for decorating, so we can take a look at.
People, like you say.
I mean, there's the high school community service, home ec programs. I'm just saying, I don't know what's in Linda's budget and what isn't.
That's
I
not the
hadn't
budget.
noticed either, so I have to look.
I
But
can tell you.
we also have a line item of donated money from people. I don't know what the rules are on taking money out of there, but
Okay, well,
we're gonna be there for a while, that's my point.
How about VOTEC? Do kids ever come from VOTEC to do any kind of work, ever? You know
I
how
mean,
the
I've
high
not solicited that, but I'm
You
sure
know.
it's something that we could consider, sure.
Because, I mean, you've got the Scituate high school kids looking to do community
Community, yeah.
things, and, VOTEC is sort of part of the town, the school system,
There are resources if
Eagle,
you think to,
yeah, Eagle Scouts, or, I don't know, I just,
but it hasn't been at the top of my list, and I did
course
want it
not.
painted first, and that was one of the things I was waiting for.
I was just bringing up old business.
I'm coming up on a year, I
Yeah.
will start to.
Yeah.
I'll be
No,
like,
no, no.
I'll be like Audrey with Gatra coming to the town for the townspeople. I'll just every month bring up curtains.
Sorry.
All right.
Can I, Jean?
Joanna,
You went in to get it painted, and how about asking yourself?
Yeah, didn't
That-
they paint
that's
before?
a-
Yeah,
They
that's
not
true.
totally
They
painted.
painted before.
Yeah.
And
So-
it's winter time, so maybe they would come in and.
yeah.
So we could have some volunteers for that. I didn't think of that. That's a great
Absolutely, it's a good
And
idea.
that is a good idea.
Joanne, do you have any news about the Friends that you want
We
to
met
mention?
Tuesday. We had a lot of discussion about the 501c3. Everything's together. He's got it all ready to send to me for my John Hancock. Hopefully, I'll hear about it Friday, but we always have him on the Fridays telling us he's going to get it to us, but it is all in now. Everything that we need to be able to have to get that. And once I sign it and send the $400 that we have to give to the IRS for it, it will be sent off, and it could be the most, I think, 3 months before we get it. And then we are ready to go on doing fundraisers. We discussed the idea that we know that the townspeople will not accept the idea of us asking them for the money. That we are going to have to raise the funds, and we hope that we can get not only the Friends, but our political action committee together to help work on raising private funds, which is probably the way we're going to have to go. At least come in, at least with, let's say they're saying 7 million for a standalone. Most of the towns around it spend 3 or 4 million. So that 7 million may be high, but also they're talking a big center. They're talking 20,000 square feet, which sounds like a lot. But what I think, a question or an idea, I would like to see you guys bring in also elder affairs to give you ideas about the square footage once you get to that point that you need. And I also feel very strongly that we need to get the original architect that did leave us plans that we saw when we first started last November. We had the plans in our hands, the old plans, and get him to come back in, because he is an architect for senior centers. And something else that ran through my mind, and I can't think what it is. Oh, I had mentioned to Dr. Price, and I wanted to run it by you. I know we had that situation with the woman that needed the tree cut down. I noticed it's been cleared.
It is down.
Which I'm very pleased, because it makes it safer for her. I'm willing to check with my son, who's a contractor, and see if he can get some of the contractors to give you a list of maybe people that are reliable, that are qualified for the seniors to turn to, and maybe you could talk to them about a discount price. In other words, if you have a senior that calls in and needs a new window or window replacement, or somebody that does landscaping. I know of a young man that's, Frank Snow's son is a landscaper, and I know Frank Snow and my son probably, I'm not saying they could give them the exact time, but they may be able to get those contractors to put their name on a list, so you have it, Linda.
Sure.
So, because I'm afraid that old people are gonna go in and call anybody and get taken.
Well, we do get calls, and we do try to
And an
help.
electrician, I know 2 Scituate electricians, and probably there are a lot more, but if I can contact, if it's all right with you, maybe I can contact at least one in each one of the groups and see if they can't get others that are willing to either donate their time. I do understand there was an emergency fund put aside for seniors that might have needed help. I don't know what happened to
I
that.
don't know what happened to it. I mean, we have
I
it.
don't know, but it was there,
Well, I
and it
mean,
was,
Why would you know?
and
Handyman
there used to be a handyman.
There used to be a handyman that they had.
We have a couple of names that we give people.
You talking about Mike, who lives next door to the senior center?
He's when?
Yeah, you have a list, correct? That
We
they're
have
all Corey,
We have
right?
a couple of names.
Yeah.
It's just that I thought about this, and, you know, I'm fortunate. I can call my son, may take 20 years to get there, but I can call him. And I know about, well, after 50 years of living here, I've gotten to know electricians and landscapers.
It's a good idea, though.
It's
To
very
have
good.
a list of
I think
reliable
if
people
Linda
that you
had a
can
list,
trust.
Yeah.
That they could, they know they could call Linda and it would be a reliable list.
Exactly.
That's,
Good idea.
Instead of going through
But
the yellow pages.
how
and
to
just picking
determine
someone.
that it's a reliable list? So that's what we need to know, that
Well,
it is in
the
fact a
reliable
reliable
list
list.
is,
Would be by
and even like if
reputation.
you went to Duggan, he would tell you who on that list is by reliable, I mean somebody that has their license, that has their insurance. That's what you need to make sure. Not somebody that's a scam artist that's going to come in and say, oh, I can do that for you. And then hand them
We
a
would-
bill that they can't even see the light of day.
We would appreciate having reputable names to give people, then they do
So,
call.
but it's something that I could probably work with you and get, and as I say, I was gonna talk to my son, but right now.
Well, that's a great idea, Joanne. I think also too, like, are you talking about Mr. Duggan, the town engineer?
No, I'm talking
Building
about
inspector.
Duggan, who's the.
Oh, the building inspector, excuse me. Yeah, and if you and Linda got a list together, and Mr. Duggan said, yeah, those are all, problem solved, then.
But you have to ask, you're gonna have to, you can't just put the list together without asking the contractors if
Well,
they're willing to.
Well, that's what I meant by putting the list together,
Yeah,
but I mean, if, it's a great idea, work with Linda, and then as long as Mr. Duggan, who has a wonderful reputation, even though I got his title mixed up, if he looks the list over and agrees that they're licensed and fine, upstanding Scituate citizens, bingo,
Yeah.
And Linda, I did an article last year, I've done it for 2 years, during the winter months, of the needs of those seniors in an emergency situation in the Marina. And I will be pulling it up again, so you do know, because I cited out what they need, flashlights, things like that. But I do-
Okay, we do that too.
Yeah, but because seniors read my,
Well, okay.
But that's just-
I
That's
read,
that, we could, that's
I
not
read your
really-
last article, and so happened you mentioned several things to do around town for seniors, and you didn't happen to mention the senior center. So it would be nice if you
and I need
included
to
that.
get together again on that.
So,
That's
great.
how the Friends and the board
If you-
and the senior center are gonna come together.
But the Friends, my article is not the Friends.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm not getting into interpersonal
No, no, no.
relationships.
And
I'm just saying
also,
we all have to work together.
Gordon mentioned, and I'll give you there are 93 different people that go to Marshfield. Out of that 93, they are there 892 times. And this was in 3/4 of a year. I know that seniors travel anyway. She figured that it would be at least 1,192 times that they would use their senior center.
I'm well aware of that.
We want to bring them back. That's our big thing. Let's get them back here.
We do. Okay.
That's,
Well, I think Linda's
and
doing,
that-
I
okay,
think Linda's
thanks.
doing a great job with her
I think-
cafe.
I'm not saying
No, I know, I
Linda
just,
knows, I think her programs are fantastic.
Joanne, can I finish?
Yeah.
I said, I think Linda's doing a great job bringing new people in with her cafe talks, for one thing. So that's all I was gonna say, Joanne.
No, I'm just saying, I was asked by Marty to do this. This is why I called Marshfield. I was asked to check with Marshfield and with Duxbury, and I did not get anything but 2% and no answer as to, from Duxbury, and that was Marty's request to me, and that's why I did it.
More
Thanks.
information that, can be used.
Well, it's
Yes.
more information we can get for us to
Yeah.
get out to.
Exactly.
I better get to the library.
Oh, you know what, and there is another meeting here
Yeah,
tonight.
7 o'clock library. For anyone that's interested in seeing the plans were revised,
yes.
again, just recently. They had the architect go over the plans, and he or she or they were able to change some stuff and make the building, I think, physically prettier and nicer to look at, both from outside and inside. And I'm looking forward to seeing the plans tonight.
Is this again since the last presentation they did at the selectmen's meeting?
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
there were some
wow.
slight revisions made. They went with low, no, one of the things they did was low bookshelves. There's nothing, I understand, over, I think, 4 feet or 4.5 feet. So they're not these 6 foot, 7 foot tall bookshelves. So it really kind of opens the space up a lot more, and they have room to do that. So they were trying to just kind of open the space up more and make it more appealing and comfortable. So I'm encouraging them at that time to do it soon. But that's all I had, or we have. Okay,
I'm
so
all set.
I entertain a motion to
I make a
adjourn.
motion to be adjourned.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone, and
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. I meant to start my report with that, and I
Yeah,
forgot,
yeah.
so really,